I want to white balance a camera for you and kind of give you the real-time experience of how we do it. So I'm probably dark right now. My wife's helping me. We're actually filming this on an iPhone because I want you to get a real feel for how to white balance. So right now, if you look, so these lights, I know that these lights, I have like this light and my softbox light. These lights are rated at, they have a 5600 Kelvin light temperature, and the light above me is a tungsten light. So that's a tungsten light, so that's tungsten, as we see on the chart, is 3200 degrees, and so the light there is different than the light here, and so you got a mix of light, and we don't want that. What I want is like a daylight feel. Right now it's probably about 9 o'clock at night. The sun's down, so I have absolutely no natural light at all coming in. There's a window back there. There's no natural light coming in at all. So all my light is right here, and so because it's dark outside, I'm able to control it better. So all I have to do is turn off the tungsten. That's here. Yeah. So now the tungsten light is off. Now I don't have any, now I only have one light temperature, which is 5600. So that's really going to help me dial it in on my camera and help my camera to see the light a little bit better. So if you come over here, I'm going to flip this on. Let me move this up. So I have it in manual mode. And this is the, if you're wondering, this is the Canon 70D and that I was working with earlier. And I'm going to put it on manual mode. So I'm just going to flip this dial until I get to M. Okay. And then once it's in manual mode, I can flip the camera on. I'm going to make sure it's in video mode right there. Okay, and now I'm ready to white balance. So I'm going to put this on the table. If you look at the screen, I don't know if you can see this on the iPhone or not, but the picture here is a lot more yellow than the actual box of dots. My favorite candy, by the way. I love dots. They're so good. And so that's why I'm using them for this quick tutorial. But yeah, you can probably see that's a lot more yellow than that. So our goal here is to get this as close to that as possible so that we're seeing real. And I like it to be bright and vibrant. So the first thing I'm going to do though is I'm going to check my exposure. My ISO is at 250 right now, and if I press halfway on the shutter button, then it will actually show me, pressing halfway down, it will show me that I'm at a 1 on exposure. I actually like to be a little bit lighter than that, so I'm actually going to bring my ISO up a tad. Yep, I like to have it closer to 2, like 1.5, between like 1.5 and 2, because on these types of videos, we like to have them bright and vibrant, okay? Now my aperture is at a 4.0, and actually, my shutter is at a 200, and when you're shooting video, you want it to be more at like a 60. So that's going to change things a lot. So I'm going to take that to a 60. So this is a little lesson as well on exposure. So let's do that. Let's go over exposure real quick. In order to get your exposure, you're going to work with 3 things: the shutter, your aperture, and your ISO. And the higher your shutter, the darker it's going to be. And the lower that number, the lighter it's going to be. Okay, so, and that's your shutter. And then right here, you have your aperture. Same thing with aperture. The lower, the lighter, and the higher the number, the darker on your aperture. But the lower that number, it's also going to be more blurry. The higher that number, the more in focus it's going to be. So you got to kind of play around with that. So 11 is really going to be in focus, but it's going to be a little bit darker. So if you want everything to be in focus at an 11, you're going to have to play with your ISO, and you're going to have to play with your shutter to get it there. And you don't want a shutter that's too slow. So you want to do ISO. I think 11 is a little high. If I want everything in focus, I go more at 7 or 8, because at this scale, you'll get everything in focus at a 7 or 8. But I actually want to do I just want to set right now to get the right brightness. So I've got 60 shutter. That's where I want it, because that's going to be ideal for this shoot. You take your, we're shooting at 24 frames per second. You double that, and it'd be 58, and the closest to 58 is 60. So you want to double whatever your frames per second is that you're shooting at, okay? And then my 6.3, I'm going to leave the aperture there, okay? And I'm going to test my exposure. I think my exposure's high. It's way past 2. So I'm going to bring my ISO back down now, which is good because the higher your ISO, then the more noise you're going to see in your footage. It's really grainy. Okay, now I'm closer to a 2, so that's good. I could even probably bring it down a little more. Actually, I like it that, just looking at it, I like it that bright. That might be too bright for some, but for this, I like it. I'm gonna leave it there for now. So, I've got my exposure set where I want it. Now that my exposure is set where I want it, I'm going to do the white balance, okay? I'm gonna hit my Q here and go to Kelvin. I like to do Kelvin. Kelvin is at 8,000. Now let's look at our chart. Our chart says that 5600K is daylight, which is what these are set at. These are set at daylight, and I know that they're 5600K. So we're gonna wanna match it to the chart. Right now I'm at 8,000. So let's take it down to 5600 to match it. Okay, now that matches it. Now we're way, way closer. Take a look at that. We are so much closer to the actual picture just by doing that. I could actually probably leave it there and be just fine in editing because I've been able to control the light around me so I don't have I don't have separate light temperatures coming in. It's all 5600 with these lights. It's dark outside. I've turned all my lights inside the house off. So these are the only lights on. And that's what I've got. It's beautiful. That's a good picture. Now, let's say though, I wanted to go a little more blue. Some people like it a little more blue. If I want to go more blue, then I've got to take the temperature down a little bit. And this is actually my sweet spot. I like to shoot it at 52. And so this is where we shoot most of our videos, is at 5200K, because I think that's even, to me, that's pleasing to my eye. So 5600 gave me a good place to start, but now I'm at 52 because I played with it a little bit. Now, if you don't want it as cold, you know, so I went blue, and blue is going to be colder. If you wanted to warm it up a little bit, then all you do is you go the opposite direction, okay? So I'm going to set it to, let's say, 56. So 58, so I'll go to the other way. Now it's a little warmer. Not too much, so you still have a great picture, but maybe you want yours to be a little warmer, a little bit different than everybody else who likes it blue. That's still a great picture and still pretty close to what you've got. Okay, real quick, let's do a summary of everything that we just did. So the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that your environment is right, that you're controlling the light in your environment. And we did that here. We're shooting at night, and so we don't have any light coming through the window, so we don't need to worry about that. I'm shooting with a daylight temperature, which is different than the temperature from that light. So turning that light off helped us get all of the temperature to 5600 instead of having a mix of 32 and 56. So then we have everything the same. I turned off all the lights in the house so I know I don't have any, well, all the lights that are around this area so that I know that I don't have any light leaking from other areas. So we've controlled our environment. After you've controlled your environment, the next thing you want to do is set your exposure, and then after, which we went over, after you set your exposure, you want to set your white balance. And to set your white balance, we know we're at 5600 in our environment. So we look at the chart, and if you're not sure, you can look at the chart and say, okay, we're at daylight, so daylight's 5600. We're tungsten, we're at 3200, but we already know we're at 5600. So that's where we want to start. So we set our white balance, we set our Kelvin to 5600, and then from there we can tweak it. We can go a little bit cooler, or we can go a little bit warmer. Then it's just all kind of preference and how you want it. So that's it, really, for white balancing. And the more you do it, the easier it will become, and the better you'll get at it. So now when you do it the first couple of times, if you can't get it right, don't worry, just keep practicing and keep at it, and then pretty soon it will look clean and crisp. So, and I gotta tell you, this setup right here has done very well for us. So if you do tabletop or anything like that, we've had videos with millions and millions of views that our clients have gotten millions and millions of views on using this setup. And I've actually sold items on eBay really quick using this setup. And I usually get top dollar, so I sell it quickly, and I get usually top dollar for those items because they look so good on this setup. So there you have it, a look at white balance, going over a little bit of the setup and everything for you. I just want to give you like a hands-on review, and so you can see kind of in real life how it works and how we do it.